Welcome to Justice with Dr. V. I'm a doctor and a lawyer. I have a national litigation practice and represent those who have suffered catastrophic injuries. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about I've been in this litigation for over a decade, and these are serious injuries. We have bedsores caused by nursing not turning people, but there is also something called a restraint-related bedsore, that we have clients who were agitated and were restrained into the bed so that they could not walk because they might fall or cause problems down the hallway, that they were restrained and developed a bedsore. That's a bad injury because the government causes injuries from a restraint a never event. Bedsores, stage 3 and stage 4 is a never event. So in other words, we have clients who we represent who have two never events: serious injury caused by restraint and a bedsore because the restraint was preventing our clients from moving. So the restraint was basically pinning them down, developing a sore on there. That's a serious injury, and talk about the distress that our client would have to endure while he's being strapped to a surface, and that strappage is causing a pressure ulcer. We represent clients who have lost limbs because of restraints. We represent a client who we allege had a wrist restraint and lost blood flow to the hand and lost their arm. We have clients who have been restrained into bed and develop a heel sore because they're trying to move, but they're restrained. They press their heel against the bed and develop a pressure ulcer to the heel. A doctor's role in bedsore management. First of all, if you're in a hospital and you're a doctor and you're the attending and you get notified that there's a bedsore that the hospital caused, you need to examine that bedsore and make sure that patient is safe from further injury. If it's a serious bedsore where there's dead tissue, that attending doctor should consult a plastic surgeon or general surgeon. If there's area of dead tissue, that may need a debridement. We have clients who develop dead areas on their body and they get sent to a nursing home before the dead tissue is cut off, and that becomes infected, smelly, chronic infection into bone, and that hospital just discharged that patient to a nursing home. That's an unsafe discharge. The standard of care is pretty well decided that people who develop serious bed sores, they should have access to a doctor who can direct them to surgical management versus conservative management. If you have a serious injury, you need a doctor who can have access to both treatments and discuss risks versus benefits of both. If you don't have the capability of operating on that person for cure, these things go bad often with people who have serious bed sores, and you hope that wound care will slowly allow the body to heal in. That could take a year and a half, and during this time, these patients become malnourished, they become septic, they get admitted with septic shock. We know that 17% of people who have a stage 4 bed sore with a bone infection, they die at 1 year. 44% are readmitted. If there's a hospital-caused bed sore, that patient needs access to a doctor who can help them. We are suing hospitals for failure to prevent and failure to treat. If they discharge that person to a nursing home that does not have the capabilities for a plastic surgeon, that's an unsafe discharge. We're suing doctors and hospitals for these harms. So again, I ran a flap program when I practiced medicine, and a person who was admitted with a stage 4 bed sore with osteomyelitis, we would put them on a Clinitron bed. We would order labs to see what their nutrition is. If they're malnourished, we might have to include a feeding tube, allow for proper nutrition, to allow for wound healing. Treatment is very easy for these bed sores. It doesn't take Harvard plastic surgeon. It's reliable pressure reliefs, either on a clinitron bed or with nurses providing reliable pressure relief, nutritional support, surgical debridement of the dead tissue, wound care, and when that wound sufficiently is closing in and you see the body healing, you can provide a flap with the plastic surgeon to rotate muscle over that hole, the redundant skin. You close these wounds with IV antibiotics, secure the underlying infection that's generally always present, and you flap these patients. Patients who don't want to flap, which is not unusual in the elderly population, you tell them the risk of non-flap versus conservative measures, and you then provide conservative measures, wound care, nutritional support. But what you don't do is send that person to a nursing home that doesn't have access to a plastic surgeon. You need to refer people who are injured with deep stage 3, stage 4 bed sores really just needs a doctor who has the capabilities to fix these wounds surgically with flaps or provide conservative wound care because the patient really doesn't want to flap. Surgical flap closure of serious bed sores is really the standard of care if you want. It's unfortunate even today that nursing homes are telling patients' families that their loved one has developed a Kennedy ulcer. And Kennedy ulcers means that there is imminent death ahead because of a presence of a sore, and that sore is a hallmark sign that a person is nearing their death. Kennedy ulcers don't really exist. That pressure ulcers are pressure ulcers. The reason why they're calling it a Kennedy ulcer is that bed sores cause death, and they're saying this is a Kennedy ulcer, that it appeared because the person is close to death. It is a myth. This nursing home where there was a nurse named Kennedy, she reported all of these patients who developed these sores near their death, and they wrote it up. Those patients would become patients at my rehab hospital, and I would then save those patients. We got a lot of people with stage 3, stage 4 bed sores from nursing homes. If they didn't get to my hospital where we had plastic surgeons to fix them, yes, that bed sore would kill that person going forward. And there are still nursing homes that are telling patients' families that there's a Kennedy ulcer and we need to bring in hospice. Yeah, Kennedy ulcers, the late 1990s, is a term that indicates a serious ulceration in the skin that looks just like a pressure ulcer that occurs spontaneously just prior to death. That was described in a nursing home, and they described dozens of patients who this developed in. What that nursing home was a unsafe nursing home that wasn't providing reliable pressure reliefs, and these patients developed bed sores and then they died. That term is still alive. I don't know how it's alive because they can't offer any kind of reliable mechanism on how that would occur, and it's mythical and it's a lie. They'll have a nurse expert and a defense expert testify to that, and then we will cross them very hard that then died. They believe that those sores that look just like bed sores occurred spontaneously. First, if you've been told that your loved one has a Kennedy ulcer and are near death, that means that your loved one is not safe, that your loved one needs to be in a hospital. Number 2, I hope you give me a call because we cross that nursing home hard and find out who in that nursing home is pushing for this diagnosis to be told to families of injured people. We're going to do discovery, and if punitives are allowed by law, we're going to be after punitive damages. Kennedy ulcer is a mythical term, and we will cross whoever brings that diagnosis to the courtroom. Well, I think nursing homes use this term Kennedy ulcer, hoping that family won't go online to learn what they are or understand the seriousness of pressure ulcers. That's how they're trying to avoid a lawsuit, because they don't want to tell the families that they didn't turn their loved one and now their loved one has a dead piece of flesh on their body that needs surgical debridement and can cause chronic infections and lead to septic shock. And they're trying to push this patient who they injured to hospice.